Hello everyone, you're watching an introductory video for Project 2. In this video I'm gonna take you step by step on how to work with this assignment. If you haven't read the prompt yet, please do it now before you watch this video or as you're watching it. So, a few more things to note about the assignment besides what's in the prompt. First of all, the genre you'll be working with is a rhetorical analysis. Now, we've read about rhetoric and rhetorical situations earlier this semester, so you should have at least some idea of what analyzing something rhetorically would mean. It means looking at a text and analyzing it for how effective or ineffective it is achieving its purpose. One big mistake that I often see students make with rhetorical analysis is that they slip back into arguing, by which they start arguing about the topic instead of analyzing other people's arguments. So please remember this: you don't need to state your opinion on the topic or issue itself, you're just analyzing other people's arguments on it. The only sort of argument you'll state is your judgment on how effective or not your sources were. So remember, you're not arguing, you're analyzing. And next, the most important question for this assignment, of course, is your topic and what kind of sources you're going to analyze. In terms of topic, I don't have any strict requirements for you regarding which ones you must or absolutely cannot choose, but I highly recommend that you choose a topic that relates to your major or your general discipline of interest. That will make this project a lot more manageable and more helpful to you, and that it also generates some amount of debate. It doesn't have to be a super contested topic currently debated publicly or in your discipline, but it helps if there's some amount of debate or controversy, as you'll have to find argumentative sources on this topic, not just general information like a page in an online encyclopedia. Now, once you've found a good topic to work with, let's see what kind of sources you'll find. There's a source page on the assignment that takes you to a resource page, and basically it says that you can use print or online articles, you can choose a whole website, you can have promotional or campaign videos, blogs, advertisements, commercials are okay, but you can use only one in this paper. And let me take you to that resource page that's linked in the assignment. So the resource page has a few ideas for you. The second two examples or two topics are pretty general, and the first one is something that I would probably choose if I was writing this paper myself. So let's take a closer look at the first topic. There are four sources that I could possibly work with. The first one is an article in The Hill, which is a newspaper, called "The U.S. Needs to Embrace Multilingual Education." It's not just a news article, it's an opinion piece, which is great for analyzing because opinion pieces usually make a lot stronger argument than just a newspaper article or news articles. Now, the second piece here, the second source listed, is a page from a website, a page called Why Bilingualism. And it's a page from a website for French American School of Puget Sound. And what's interesting about this page would be, while it's trying to be informative, it's also making an argument, of course, and there's a financial interest behind that argument because, of course, the school wants you to bring your kids to study there. Right, so they have that agenda as well. Finally, the third source right here is an article from Voice of America. And while it doesn't make a super direct argument, it sounds pretty argumentative in its word choice and the rhetorical moves it uses. It compares second language education in the US and in Europe, then cites a lot of statistics and kind of makes an argument just by the facts that they choose to present. So that can be fun to analyze too. It's less direct argument, but it's interesting to study. And lastly, the fourth source right here is a website for an advocacy group called U.S. English. It's an advocacy group for making English the official language of the United States, and as you should know, this country does not have any one official language. Now, in terms of websites, you don't have to analyze every single page that's on it. For instance, for this one, I would just analyze the homepage and maybe the About U.S. English section, and I might look through the rest of the pages here and all of the links they have, but I wouldn't go into too much detail. I would just focus on maybe 1 or 2 pages out of this whole website, and that's fine. So as you can see, these 4 sources approach the topic from different angles and bring different agendas. If I'm deciding which ones to use for the analysis, I'll think about whether or not they make similar arguments. It might be more interesting to look at sources that are opposite in their opinions, whether or not they are familiar in genre, whether or not they're similar in genre and scope, and then I'll probably make my decision on how well I can analyze and compare and contrast any 2, maybe 3 of them. So I'll just have to see how well they'll work together in one paper, what I can tell about them, how it all comes together. So to sum up, let me go back. To sum up, first decide on the topic you want to work with. Do some Googling on it and see what you can find. Look through a few sources. See which ones are going to work, which ones might not be so good, and then decide which ones to use. Now, after you've decided on the topic and the sources, it's time to do the actual analysis. The prompt gives you specific questions to use for your analysis, divided over these major elements of any text or source, like message, author, publisher, audience, appeals, timing, language, visuals, genre. So use all of these elements. And just keep in mind a few things. First of all, your analysis needs to be backed up by evidence in the sources themselves. So you can cite the text in the sources, you can take screenshots of, for example, a website or an advertisement or commercial. You can copy and paste images that the sources use, whatever you need to do, but just make sure that your main points of analysis are backed up by this type of evidence. And then, depending on what kind of sources you choose, you might spend more time on one aspect or another. For example, if one of your sources is a video, you'd have to look at the visual elements a lot more than you would if you chose an article. And then, finally, your main point, right, the whole main message of your analysis should answer the question, which source ultimately is more effective and why? Right, so your analysis might compare and contrast your chosen sources for how they work in various aspects, but remember that you need to make that final judgment in the conclusion, possibly in the introduction. But yeah, that's going to be your last judgment in this paper, and something that your readers would need to find out. Alright, so that's it. Hopefully that helped you clarify the assignment a little bit. If you still have any questions or anything was unclear, please let me know.